Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about the Insta360 Ace Pro. So this is a new action camera that came out about almost 2 months ago at the time of the recording of this video. I've had it for a little while here. Been flying around on some Cinewebs here. This is the Pavo 35 from Beta FPV. This is what I mainly flew it on. And, the question I've been getting from a lot of the viewers from the channel are whether or not they should upgrade from, like, say, the Hero 12, which is what I have here on my right hand, to the Ace Pro. And in a nutshell, if you don't really want to watch the whole video, if you already have a Hero 12 and you fly primarily in bright light conditions, where you have very good lighting, you don't fly in low light conditions, you probably don't need to upgrade to the Ace Pro. Now, if you're a pilot that flies mainly in very low light conditions and you're not happy with the stabilization results from your Hero 12, then you may want to pay attention to the rest of this video as to see if this is the camera that you might want to take a look at. First off, before we get into all the specs and the differences here, I do want to point out the fact that this camera is quite heavy. It does have a very big screen in the back here. It's 2.4 inches. It does flip up, so you can't flip this up. And for those of you that want to use an action camera for vlogging, this is probably going to be a pretty nice one for a lot of people that don't have this sort of flip up screen. On the Hero 12, the front facing camera is very small, and it doesn't really help you frame the video as well as a full 2.4 inch screen that you can use flipped up here like this. The camera is waterproof, I think 10 meters. Even with the flip up screen here, it is waterproof, and you can have a touchscreen here. Although I think in saltwater and going further down, you want to use the dive case that comes with this one if you are using this for other action sports. So this camera is quite heavy. It's coming in at 180 grams with the battery. Just for comparison, the Hero 12 with the battery is coming in at 152 grams. Now, I do know that a lot of you fly the cameras without the battery in them, so pop the battery out. Not sure if some of you fly with the door on or off. We'll leave the door on in this case here. So no battery, door on, it's 120 grams. And the Ace Pro, I did test it. It does have the ability to fly off of the USB-C ports. So you can, if you have one of the adapters that can plug into your flight battery, you can plug that in here and power it off of that, and it will record. And you don't have to have the battery in there. So pop the battery out, and with the door on, we're talking 145 grams. Without the battery. And just comparison in terms of the size, Ace Pro is quite a bit larger than the Hero 12. It's thicker, taller. It's about the same width. It's a little bit wider, just a hair wider than the Hero 12. But yeah, for the most part, it is larger than the Hero 12 in all dimensions, and of course heavier, as I just showed. It does come with this new magnetic mounting system here. We have these little claws, I guess you can call them. These are metal, and then they pinch in like this. It's going like the magnets are not really there to hold the camera. They're just there to sort of guide the mount into the base of the camera. But you have to make sure that these clips are secure. So if the camera is like this and you're flying it around in your drone, guarantee it will fall off. So you want to make sure it is pressed in all the way. Your click, and then now it's secure. And that's how you want to mount the camera. So what I did is I actually used this mount. This is the one that's included, and I just use a standard GoPro finger mount style, and which will work with a lot of drones with that. This drone has that as well, and pop that on there, and then pop the camera on top of that, and it worked pretty well. Now, I think that this being a much heavier camera, I did fly with the battery in here. This Cine up here at 3.5 inches is probably the smallest you want to go in terms of carrying something of this weight. Just keep in mind, it does fly. It doesn't fly like amazing. Like, you're not going to be able to do like a freestyle racing or anything like that, or freestyle tricks with this, but you will fly and carry the this weight around no problem. So another mount you want to consider here, I have it attached to this multi-mount. This is, I think, a product made in cooperation with PGY Tech from Insta360. It's like a tripod and selfie stick all in one. It just come with this little ball mount here on the top here. And then this is the mount that I have on here. So I have this, if, you know, for doing selfies and stuff like that. This will just screw into the tripod mount here. You got one on this side over here on this mount. And it's got some finger mounts that come down. It's got the same claws there for gripping to the camera, as well as the same, you know, it's magnetic as well, and is only a certain way to go. And then this one here, you know, they have these little buttons here that will release those claws, so you can remove it. If you want to lock that, you can lock this one here, and now you won't be able to accidentally pull it off. But when you want to do that, when you want to pull it off, you unlock it, and then it just comes right off, no problem. So of course, if you're flying this on a drone, you're going to want to use the ND filters. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later in the video in terms of like how to use it. But the lens protector that's on here is not removable. So it's not like you pop this off and you pop this on like you do with the GoPro. This actually goes over the top. So it just fits on via friction, just kind of slides over, and then you just kind of press it in, and it should stay on. It's pretty secure, but that's what it looks like. So the set here does come with an ND8, a 16, a 32, and a polarizing filter. So those of you that are concerned about breaking this glass here, if you buy this camera, of course, keep your serial number and receipt and register with Insta360. Within the first year, if you do have to break this glass, they will replace it for free. You'd have to ship it into them, so you have to pay for shipping into them, but they'll ship it back to you for free. But yeah, this is warranted for 1 year. But beyond that, of course, you're going to have to pay for replacements of this glass. Okay, so I'm not going to cover all the features of the camera. There's a lot of reviews already that cover pretty much this camera in detail. I'm just going to cover this stuff that I use primarily. You can do photos with this one. You can do 8K video with this one. It is a 1/1.3 inch sensor, and the sensor uses what's called quad Bayer technology. So it basically is kind of like, well, basically it's a 4K sensor, but then each of the pixels are split up into 4 pieces, so then it can ultimately create an 8K video image. So in a nutshell, the 8K is not particularly that much better than 4K when you kind of zoom into the image, especially in bright lighting conditions, but in low light conditions, it does seem to have a slight bit of an improvement. It's not quite a full 8K, it's kind of a quasi 8K. So in my opinion, it's kind of a gimmicky feature, not personally something that I would use. The 8K files are absolutely gigantic. In terms of what you would mostly use the video footage for, I don't think it's going to be particularly that useful. There is a feature called Clarity Zoom, where it's this little icon here where you can zoom in on your image here. So basically what it does, it takes the 4K image from the 8K sensor and creates a 4K video. So it's like you're zooming in on part of the sensor, but it's still able to create a 4K video out of that because the video, I guess the resolution is such that it is still 4K. You don't lose any resolution if you want to zoom in. So it's almost like having a zoom lens on your action camera, which is something that's pretty unique that you're not going to get from any other action camera currently out there. So the main video modes you're going to be wanting to be in is going to be the standard video mode here. Of course, you have other modes like photo. There's HDR photo. So these are things I didn't really use too much. So you can look at other reviews if you're curious about those. So the main video modes, you're going to use the main video mode here. There is something called pure video mode. So this is the mode you want to use for your low light footage. So this is another feature of this camera that the GoPros and the Action 4s out there don't have, is there's some sort of a 5 nanometer AI chip inside here. It's probably why this camera costs $100 more than the other cameras, is it does special processing to the low light footage where it does the noise reduction before the stabilization. Apparently the other cameras can't do that, and that's what sets this camera apart. Obviously it's got a very big sensor, and obviously it's got the Leica lens on here, so it can capture lots of low light. But on top of that, this special AI chip, which does this special processing, allows for a better low light stabilization. So a lot of times when you're trying to stabilize your GoPro footage and you're kind of, in low light situations, it can introduce jitters and extra blurry footage, which you're not going to get in a similar situation with the Ace Pro. And obviously this is extreme low light conditions in my opinion. And I would say if you have pretty good ambient light, you're probably not going to notice a huge difference. But in extreme situations, there's a noticeable difference where you're going to get a lot of shakes and jitters on your GoPro footage that's stabilized, whereas the stabilized footage from the Ace Pro is going to be basically less noisy. It's not going to have those jitters. It's not going to be blurry. It's going to look really good. And of course, there's a lot of side-by-side reviews out there already. So again, search YouTube, you'll see that in low light conditions, that does make a pretty big difference. Now, for those of you that fly drones in low light, I think it's going to make a pretty significant difference in terms of, the drone vibrations getting into the camera in low light situations. That can introduce a lot of shakes and jitters and blurry, video footage into your GoPro footage, whereas you're probably less likely to see that from this camera, from the Ace Pro. So I am showing you some footage here. I am in the pure video mode that I shot on this drone in pretty low light conditions. This was just a little bit after sunset, maybe about, maybe 10 minutes after sunset, 15 minutes after sunset. It's actually quite dark in this area, but the footage that comes out of here is really, really nice and doesn't have a lot of noise in the footage. It's actually pretty grainy free, so which is pretty nice. So I'll link that full flight down in the video description if you guys want to see the entire flight, but that'll give you an idea of what kind of footage you can get in the pure video mode. Now, for most normal situations, you're going to want to be in the free frame video mode. And this is the mode where you can stabilize the footage either in GyroFlow or using the Insta360 Studio app. So obviously, in the regular video mode, you're going to have stabilized footage, which is basically Insta360's, flow state stabilization technology. It's pretty good. I personally like GyroFlow, especially for drone footage. I think you have a little bit more control over that. Now you cannot do GyroFlow in the pure video mode, at least in the current firmware that was released at the time of the recording of this video. It may be fixed later. When I try and import this footage into GyroFlow, GyroFlow just crashes. So either it's a problem with GyroFlow or there's something wrong with the footage. Either the data is corrupted or it's not correct. I'm not sure what the problem is. But yeah, right now you can only use the in-camera flow state stabilization in the pure video mode if you're using it for those low light situations. Now for free frame video, you can see here you can either it shows a guide of like what the image will look like. You can see the 16:9 and also the box for the 9:16 for vertical videos. So when you're shooting in free frame mode, it'll give you an idea of how to frame your shot. And you can use the Insta360 Studio app to basically create either a 16:9 or 9:16 vertical video. You can also do this in GyroFlow as well. The stabilization, you have a little more control over it in terms of how you want it to look in GyroFlow. If you don't want to deal with a lot of hassles, the Studio app works pretty well as well. But for the most part, for those of you that are going to be using the Ace Pro for drone footage, I would recommend the free frame video mode and then export that footage into GyroFlow to stabilize it to your needs. And again, here's some footage from the Cinema flying with the Ace Pro and the ND8 filter. It's in auto shutter mode, so it's not super bright outside, so the footage is a little bit darker than it could be. I probably shouldn't have put the ND filter on for this particular flight, but it's stabilized with GyroFlow, and you can see it's very nice footage. quite comparable to what you can get from a GoPro or an Action 4. And again, I'll link that full flight down in the video description if you guys want to watch the entire flight in 4K. Okay, so what's the bottom line here in terms of whether or not you want to get this camera or not? I'd say if you already have something like a Hero 12 or an Action 4 or something similar, and you're happy with what you're currently using it for in terms of like bright, sunny conditions, good lighting conditions, footage. If you're happy with that footage, you're probably not going to get that much of an improvement over that camera with the Ace Pro in terms of bright lighting conditions footage. It's going to be fairly comparable in my opinion. Now, if you use like the Action 4, the Hero 12, and you're primarily or not primarily, or sometimes using it in low light conditions, and you're not happy with the footage where you're getting a lot of jitters, blurry footage, doesn't look good, then you might want to consider switching over to the Ace Pro and using this camera for your low light footage, because I feel like the results are going to be better in those specific conditions. Now, of course, if you don't have any action camera at all, you're considering, well, should I get a Hero 12, an Action 4, or an Ace Pro? It kind of depends on whether or not you're going to use that camera in low light or not. And, in certain situations like indoors, for example, you might find that the footage is a little bit better. It's not going to be a huge difference in non-extreme low light and just basically general low light conditions. It's going to be somewhat better, but not like a monstrously huge difference. So it kind of depends on whether or not you feel that extra $100 is worth the price to get that slightly better footage in that conditions. Now, if you're going to be using it in all sorts of conditions where it's going to be pretty dark, and you don't have an action camera at all, then this camera is something you may want to consider, because it's going to be more versatile and sort of more useful in pretty much any situation that you're going to be able to throw it at. That's assuming you don't have anything at all. So, kind of really depends on the situation you're in. If you're, if you already have something and you're generally pretty happy with it, I would only say upgrade if you're not happy with the low light footage. Otherwise, I would probably wait until later at some point when the price of this camera comes down, or you happen to need that particular type of footage, that extreme low light footage. Now, of course, there's a lot of other features I didn't touch upon on this camera that might not necessarily be important to my audience. I mean, one of the things that the Insta360 is good at is like their app features. Some people value that highly. I particularly don't find that particularly valuable, but some people do. And one of the things that they added for this camera in their app is the AI warp feature, where you can kind of take some certain clips that you film with this camera and then run it through their AI generator to create these sort of crazy, AI generated videos for short, I think 2 to 4 second clips. I believe now you are limited to 3 per day for free. I think it's because that whatever's generating that AI video is using some high-end CPU power. That's on the back end because it uploads the video to their servers, it gets processed, and then it gets downloaded back to your phone. So whether or not that's something of value to you or not, that's kind of subjective. I personally think it's kind of a gimmick, not particularly super valuable, but some people will find that to be extremely valuable because other camera manufacturers like GoPro or DJI, they don't offer those capabilities yet, at least currently. So again, there's a lot of other features of this camera that I didn't really touch upon. So if you are curious about this camera and its additional features, I would highly recommend going out to YouTube and searching for some other reviews that will cover this camera in a little bit more in depth for more general use purposes. Okay, so that's going to cover for this video on the Ace Pro. If you got any questions, if you want to see any further content on this camera, let me know down in the video, or let me know down in the comments section. And if I get any interest in something specific, and a lot of people want to see something in particular, then I might revisit this camera on that topic in a future video. So again, if you are interested in something in a little bit more in depth, let me know down in the comments, and I will consider that for a future video. Again, links will be down in the video description to the other videos that I mentioned, the full 4K clips. And that'll do it for this one. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.